Do you have any information about us, like Atlantis? Well, as a civilization, yes, at some point we will just disappear, and something else will emerge. Right. Someone else, let's say, a new civilization. We're not the first civilization on this planet. And as I understand it, there were 3 different Atlanteans, right?
Look, I'll tell you a little bit about this topic. I blog on Zen, one of the largest esoteric blogs on Zen to date. We have a ton of shows. It's such a huge, friendly community. We've researched the topic of Atlantis a lot. Specifically the topic. Here is Atlantis. And do you understand what the deal is? The thing is, when we study the past, in the past, there are a lot of branches of reality, so we shouldn't dismiss the idea of branches of reality. Sometimes people think that if you were to travel back in time, say 200 years ago, so you just moved from point A to point B and that's it, you found yourself there, right? But nowadays, even modern physicists are thinking about this topic. They're already thinking that maybe it's not that simple. And what we saw is that the future, just like the past, is very complex. A lot of options. These are those very parallel branches of reality that converge, diverge, and new branches emerge. So, for example, the Caribbean crisis of the 70s, there was a clear branch where the path went one way and the path went another way. And so, where the path went one way, that branch was later turned back. Well, there are certain forces there. In general, that's not the point anymore. They turned that branch back, but nevertheless, it existed in the past. So, in the past, this story existed. It was really an intersection where one branch started going this way and another branch went that way. One is more apocalyptic, the other is less apocalyptic. Well, we obviously live in the one that has a less apocalyptic history. Right. And this actually relates to a bunch of different years. In the Middle Ages, there were a lot of these intersections and so on. Who works with techniques, who practices, who specifically deals with the branches of reality. It's a special kind of reading the past. Feels it? In the Middle Ages, there were branches that were consciously turned back, closed off, pushed aside, and so on. There were these small measures where a certain not-so-good story was unfolding. Regarding Atlantis, it's the same story. So, we've seen Atlantis, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different versions of Atlantis. And my colleague, she introduced the terms there. Atlantis 1, Atlantis 2, Atlantis 3, Atlantis 4. These are different Atlanteans, and they even look different. They had different energies, they had different stories, and they had different endings. Here's what's most interesting. The endings were also different. So if we're talking about Atlantis, then it's probably better to ask which specific Atlantis we're talking about. About that one in general, the one that's in our branch of reality. So right now, it has given some continuation, conditionally, to the branch we live on, or are we talking about conditionally parallel worlds, where there were also their own Atlanteans? Moreover, often, almost diametrically opposed. So, which one are you talking about? Atlantis?
What was the question? Is our civilization expecting something similar to what happened to Atlantis? Which one? And accordingly, the answer to your question, well, the one we know about, not about parallel Atlantis, but about the one for which we have, let's say, direct evidence. There are some excavations there. There is something.
But there are no excavations. That's the point. Atlantis, you see, modern historians are still debating whether Atlantis ever existed. Well, I got it. Good. Let's put it this way. We'll formulate this together. Will there be, in the future, so to speak, some kind of collapse of civilization like the one that happened in this hypothetical Atlantis of the past, that we know of when everyone was swept away, everything was destroyed? The end of the world, the apocalypse, and then a new civilization, right?
Yes. The planet has reset.
The planet has reset, all right? Well, let's take a look. To start off, as always, I'm getting into my standard basic working state. First of all, again, I really see again that there have been many Atlanteans. That's a fact. So, if we're talking about washing away, that is, so to speak, destruction, is something like this waiting for our civilization? First of all, I see that this has happened before. By the way, we also wrote about this. Now I'm going to pull a bit from there. We have also written about this already. A number of apocalyptic branches have already existed in our civilization, which then simply folded away. By the way, this is perhaps in defense. Those guys who keep predicting that the next end of the world will happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next month, and so on. So maybe indeed, there are certain, how can we compare it? This is a certain tree. It grows, yes. It grows to the right, to the left. But if the gardener sees that it's starting to grow to the left, the gardener comes over and just snips it off. He trims that very branch, and that's it. It doesn't grow anymore. The branch was folded. It was folded and it doesn't move anywhere anymore. And this happened in the Middle Ages. And even not that long ago, I feel like it was similar. I won't go into exactly when and what. I'm not really a super specialist, actually, on the branches of reality. It was definitely 1,000%. It happened how many times where it doesn't really matter. So the essence of it is that it happened. The question is different. Again, basically it's all clear here. I won't go into it any deeper. It all depends on where our architects of the universe are going. I understand that this sounds a bit schizophrenic to many guys. This whole idea about architects, the universe, and so on, but it all depends on where they are leading us. And as of today, their plan does not include the end of the world. That's exactly why I'm saying that their plan does not include the end of the world. And those people who come, including to various channels on YouTube, all sorts of shows, and so on, and they say that the end of the world is coming soon, they might just be sensing this certain the threshold where something will begin, but that something will be rolled up. Because again, if you go to a higher level, you can see it very clearly there. It's like some people might have thought that they really want all of this to just be over. No, I have to upset people. Then, the architects of this reality do not have a plan to roll back these branches. You can really feel it clearly. The main branch will always move forward. Let's call everything conditionally. Their deviant branches will be rolled back, to cut off, because there is a course to lead our planet today, upward, towards a more harmonious society, towards a more harmonious future. Yes, there can be cataclysms. Yes, there can be transitional periods. Yes, there can be wars. And yes, there will be. Yes, there will also be cataclysms, and they will be large scale. But there will be no end of the world. Humanity will continue to live. There will be no complete reset. So, as of today, in the foreseeable future, which can really be looked at least in some way, with the help of higher powers or extrasensory perception, there are no ideas in the foreseeable future about anything really bad happening. In the longer term, there, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, I don't know, 100,000 years, it's pointless to look there because you can see everything, anything at all. It's like a soup of possibilities. So, as they say, on what vibrations you vibrate, that's what you'll see there. So it's pointless. In the short-term perspective, there, let's say, 1,000 to 2,000 years, everything is fine, meaning there is no end of the world. And further, I just don't see any point in looking.
So, what then? If you say that you see that there was Atlantis and that there was more than one Atlantis, what happened to them? What did they do? Why? Well, as you say, did the architect just decide to clean them up?
You see how this is also an interesting process. What did the village do in Minecraft? Let's use understandable images. What did the village do in Minecraft? What did the player, in this case, Minecraft, decided to demolish it and build a new one next to it?
Just for fun.
Laughter? Yeah. Well, not just for fun. Look at how I see it. Just at a certain stage, it felt like This part of the game had fulfilled everything it was made for. Again, this is psychology, not of this world. It's psychology, not of this world. It's psychology, not NPCs. If we're going to use, again, computer-related terms, it's not psychology, NPC. It's the psychology of the player who plays this very NPC. At some point, Atlantis just ran its course. Well, it just ran its course. So they didn't understand what was needed to wrap up this game and start a new one. That's it. And they wrapped it up and they started a new one. Moreover, they took a long time to wrap it up. And souls, that's very important. It's not like that over there, everyone is living. And then suddenly it just hits and everything washes away. There, everyone just dies and it's unclear why at all. So, such suffering, right? So, it was clear. It was clear from the very beginning that everything was heading in this direction. And those souls that had already incarnated at the end of Atlantis, they knew what they were going to go through. They knew it. They knew and understood that they wanted to play this game. Those who did not need it, those who did not need to survive the destruction of Atlantis, they simply at some stage stopped their incarnation there, because they saw that everything, the game. They didn't want to sit through to the very end credits here. And here it is, who wanted to stay until the very end credits. They stayed, that's it. I understand that for the mind this sounds, again, very, yes, if, very, not very, but from the perspective of the spirit, it looks exactly like that. And anyone who touches the spirit and checks, well, reaches that level and checks, will see more or less the same thing.
Well, there is, how should I put it, a conspiracy theory. In general, I'm just asking questions based on what I've heard from there, right? So without going too deep into anything, let's go. So I heard this theory that people, let's say, our previous civilization developed so much and learned so much that it was almost as if, so this creator and the creator, as you say, it was unprofitable or dangerous to continue allowing this civilization to develop. And that's why they were removed, and everything started over.
There is some sound reasoning, but again, it gets lost a lot, passed through mental constructs. So, it was dangerous for the architects. An architect can't be dangerous at all, because these are very high souls, very wise, very experienced. They don't really come here much at all, so they have nothing to be afraid of. From a higher level, there's nothing to be afraid of. So it's dangerous that, they might develop to such an extent. What are they going to do for architects? What can they do for the architects? Nothing. They can't do anything. That's the essence of it. An architect is just an administrator of space. If you don't want to incarnate in this space, as they say, feel free to leave and incarnate somewhere else. So, yes, he doesn't do anything. He just administers this space, sets certain rules of the game, and so on. Change the rules. They probably won't, in general, again, this is a very high level. We're not talking about any lower levels right now. We're talking about direct, about the real high, very high level of management, the most fundamental and basic one. And they might have nothing to fear. They just realized that the game is over. So, if we're talking about certain causes that specifically triggered it in physics, this is the process of the closing of Atlantis. Well, yes, naturally, with the Atlanteans. They had very powerful energy, very strong. They knew a lot. They were skilled in many things. They kind of overdid it with their stuff. They had quite a strong ego, many of them. A strong ego mixed with sea. It turns out, this, mixed with some possibilities and abilities, usually doesn't lead to anything good. But that's all a consequence. That's a consequence. Again, if the architects didn't have plans to close this branch of reality, it wouldn't have closed. It's just a form. How to implement this plan? That was the form. The others were just tools in the hands of these so-called higher powers who simply close this reality, and that's it. So, what am I getting at? So that the guys here don't get the idea of pure fatalism, that the higher powers are deciding everything for us. No, it doesn't look like that. They provide a field for play, just a field. So it's like a developer. He did it there. One developer made Prince of Persia. For me, everything is about games today. One developer made Prince of Persia. The other one, I don't know what he did there. Doom was made. And the other one, I made Doom. And the third one made some kind of game about flowers, mushrooms, and just about joy and love. By the way, there are very few of them, but nevertheless, yes. There you go. And then you choose for yourself what to play. If you want to get the Doom experience, well, you go and get the Doom experience and run around that base shooting monsters on Mars, right? If you want to get the experience of, I don't know, flowers and mushrooms, in a good way, mushrooms, not those kinds of mushrooms, you go to gain experience. Flowers, yes. Well, then you want to gain experience. And then, you go there and do something else. So what I'm getting at is that it's just, well, it's an experience that you gain according to your understanding of what you want from this life. That's it. If you don't like this planet, well, you can curl up at ISI and go to some other world. So, the one that you'll like. By the way, some people also say that we're being kept in a prison here. I don't see that. I remember a number of my past lives not here. I remember very clearly. I clearly know that these are my past lives. They are very emotional. I clearly know that you can get out of here and change your planet to some other one. You know how it is. It's not always easy to do in that sense, which again is this, like how we, in Zen, in the blog, started introducing a very interesting comparison. It's like turning on a server. So, if you imagine the higher self, it descends. So here, on a specific planet, yeah. And it kind of turns on the server here to go through things. So there are all these experiences, trials, and so on. This, like a company that came to a certain country, chose a country and set up operations, arrived, set up there. She opened her office, well, and then she starts, as they say. Its employees start working. Yes, right here. This is, as they say, the higher self of the local and regional level. This specific planet. So yes, there is a higher self, an even higher one, an even higher one. The higher self is multi-layered and multifaceted. And if suddenly one employee suddenly decided, well, I guess I should shut down the company here. What will you do? You would go to the director of this office in that country and ask the office director, the office at all, does he want to shut down the company or not? And the office director will respond, yes, I want to, or no, I don't want to. This is also a very important thought. This is a really important thought. Guys, hear me out here. Many guys say that this is my last life. I will no longer incarnate on this planet. That's it. I'm leaving from here. Then they reach the higher self. To the high level of the higher self. And they realize that in fact the higher self, I don't want to leave here because my higher self has other goals and tasks. Yes, to this office in this world, in this country. So what am I getting at with all this? To sum it all up, the main point I want to make is that no one ever locks you in on any planet. If you came down here, your spirit came down and basically set up its server here. So there were certain reasons for that. But if your spirit, specifically its higher aspect, decides to leave here, you will leave no matter what. So basically we ourselves, well, the higher self, that's us. If we, being in the higher self, decide to leave here, then we will leave. This is a very multidimensional topic. It's very complicated. Now, describing it here, somehow structuring it, yes, it will be tedious and difficult and long. I've already gone off to the side. But in general, everything will be fine in our world. No one will wash us away. We will live and enjoy life for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years, and then we will see everything.
You say that many people think we're here, like we're in some kind of prison and so on. And that's where you started to get unraveled, just like that.
Well, yes, exactly. Many people think that we came here and that we can't leave this place anymore. But, again, we really can't leave here because we are just the mind. Well, again, most people who live here, who don't have a strong connection with the higher self, I'm just a mind. And if we make contact with the spirit, we connect with the higher self. We see the overall plan, the reason why we came here, why we set up our server in this country, on this planet called Earth, for what purpose. Our mothership has descended. It hangs right here. But, yes, if there really is a reason to leave here, this ship will absolutely calmly take and leave. No one is holding it here. No one shackles him here. No one is forcing him to stay on this planet.
Dear friends, I invite you all to my course with a personal vision, Return to the True Self. This course has been around for over 12 years. And recently we launched it in English with my complete personal vision in 6 modules, working with blocks, working with egregores, working with the ego, contacting the higher self. Answers to simple questions, answers to more complex questions, and then there's what we call the Great Journey. It's contact with space, contact with the planet, contact with God, contact with anything at your request through the higher self. Health, finances, relationships, purpose, past life. The course is available at any time. You can sign up for it using the link below this video. Come on over, I'll be waiting for you.